Graylog elevates enterprise-level cybersecurity through its comprehensive SIM, centralized log management, and API security solutions. Built on the Graylog platform, Graylog Security combines SIM, security analytics, threat detection, and incident response capabilities. Unlike traditional SIMs, which offer complex and costly setups, Graylog Security simplifies security and operational challenges with an optimal blend of licensing, people, and infrastructure costs. To see a demo, visit securityweekly.com/Graylog. If your organization is ready to enhance cyber resilience, we have important insights for you. The 2024 Level Blue Futures Report sheds light on how rapid computing changes affect IT visibility. Our research reveals that while IT leaders see positive outcomes, 85% acknowledge increased risk. In this report, we identify the barriers to cyber resilience, the challenges impacting cybersecurity, and the business contexts that reveal operational issues. You'll also discover what's on the horizon and 5 essential steps for prioritizing cyber resilience. Get your complimentary copy of this crucial research today. Visit securityweekly.com/levelblue. Cybersecurity simplified. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. It is time for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW382 if you want to follow along as we go through this week's news, or check out the links or any of our comments on any of the stories that we're going to be covering today. All right, and we are joined by Mr. Ayman Elsawa and Mr. Darwin Salazar. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing great. And as you can see, we are embracing Halloween for those of you watching the video version of this. For those of you listening to it, we probably just sound normal.
A little muffled maybe on my end.
I think most of our costumes are fairly self-explanatory, except Ayman. Is that where you're going, Darwin?
No, I was going to say, if you're solely listening, it might be worth checking out the YouTube video. We're pretty decked out in costumes. And Ayman, I don't know if you want folks to guess what your costume is in the comments section and on YouTube, or if you want to give some hints or just tell us who you're dressed up as. But I think it's a pretty cool costume.
Maybe you just don't say it.
Yeah,
let
let people guess, and I'll give some hints halfway through.
I think it should be a contest, and whomever guesses can get a sticker with Adrian's face sent to them in the mail,
or a roll of 500 stickers.
I'll to make that happen. It's not me. I don't have stickers of myself, but I will tell you, just because I'm a good sport.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
All right. Jumping into it here, we do have some fundings here, and I wonder if any of you guys. So Reality Defender, I know pretty well. Socket and Stream Security, less so. So I'll just speak to Reality Defender here real quick. This has become an entire category. There aren't a ton of companies in this category. They won the RSA Innovation Sandbox last year, I believe it was, and maybe the year before. I lose track. And the idea is to detect deepfakes, basically. So this is a very tech-heavy area. It's going to be one of those areas where it's a game of leapfrog, where attackers will get more clever, and the responses to it, the methods used to detect them, have to catch up. But they raised a Series A, raised $33 million in investment there, and Illuminate Financial was the main backer there. It kind of surprised they're just now raising the Series A. The seed funding must have been pretty significant because they've been around for 2 or 3 years already.
Right, and with this how big is
maybe had some good early success. You hope that's the case. The less funding a company has to take on, the better they're in a position to make their own decisions. And if there is an exit at some point, whether it's IPO or acquisition, that's certainly better for the founding team. And we know the last couple of years have been a little stingy for obvious reasons on funding, but a 30+ million Series A is certainly nothing to sneeze at.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Darwin.
Yeah, my question with this one, like deepfake detection, is how big is the market today, and how big will it be in 5 years? And if we think about, the electoral cycle in which we're in with presidential elections here in the U.S., and then every other country that has elections coming up and they have to secure their election processes and kind of defend against the threat of deepfakes and disinformation and misinformation. And then you think of VIPs and the potential for VIPs being spoofed. Very important people, whether they're executives or founders or media folks, right? Like Elon Musk, if he gets spoofed, or that someone releases a deep fake about with Elon Musk saying something, it might tank the stock price of multiple publicly traded companies and things of that nature. So the fact that they raised 33 mil for their Series A is very strong validation for the market space, and I think it's something to track. There are more and more deepfake detection startups coming out of stealth over the past 6 to 12 months, and Reality Defender, I think, is a pioneer in this space, having won the RSA Sandbox this past year. So kudos to the team there. Great to see, great validation.
Yeah, there's only one other company in this space I'm aware of called Breacher.ai. And seems like they do some similar stuff here. So it's those are the only two I'm aware of. I'm sure there's probably a few more because I've not really researched this market specifically. And then there's a few more that are more focused on adversarial machine learning attacks. So more in machine learning than on deepfakes.
Yeah, I know a founder that has a deepfake company, really a small company, but also there is the threat scenario of how MGM got attacked, right? Where someone did fake an IT person's voice, and that's happening a lot more today. So it's interesting. These companies are popping up, but I think it's going to be important for like banks and other VoIP providers to bake this into their tool set organically as well. So
I was at an event, I don't know, 5-6 weeks ago, and there was somebody from IBM who was working on some AI and deepfake detection, and he actually got, I don't want to say scam, but his coworkers played a joke on him and created a deepfake of him doing a commercial, and then they played it off as, hey, somebody's doing this, and are you out? Was this you? And so they actually fooled a guy who works on deepfakes into thinking that he had been scammed, right? And
wow.
And so I'm not explaining it as clearly, obviously, because his was a 45-minute talk, but even somebody who worked on it was kind of surprised at how good and how slick some of this technology is. And I think to Darwin's point, yeah, I mean, it's important now, but it's going to advance even more in the next few years.
Yeah. What's scary is that all you need is like 30 seconds to like a couple minutes of video or audio information. It's like so scary. Like someone could just have an ESW deepfake podcast right now with all our voices and everything. It's wild.
I don't know that they could do what we're doing today with the visuals.
That's
with
true.
I do wonder if things like my hair would trip it up. Like just the face is one thing, but like earrings, glasses, the hair, that's where often you see stuff. You see the artifacts, the things that clue you in that it's maybe not real.
Yeah.
All the little things. All right. So
Real
Those are
quick on this one,
go ahead.
there's another startup that emerged from stealth within the same space as Get Real Labs. They were incubated, it seems, by Ballistic Ventures, which is a huge name in the security VC world. And Get Real Labs was incubated in partnership with Ballistic Ventures for 2 years, and they just came out of stealth earlier this year. So this is a problem that it's been top of mind for a lot of folks for many years, but now I think is the time where the threat has become more real and people are willing to put up more dollars behind it, and because it's actually a real world problem for a significant group of people. So fun space to watch unravel. I think it's a new security domain entirely in my opinion. But yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, and you made a good point, Darwin. Yeah, I wonder how big this market can get. If this is going to be something that is going to grow, or if it's only going to support. Like I like to think about the bug bounty platform market, where yeah, there's more than two, but if you ask most people, they're only going to name Bugcrowd and HackerOne. And I
Yeah,
wonder if this is going to be one of those kind of niche markets where it'll support two or three, but not many more than that.
exactly.
It also
It's
seems a
this.
hard
Yeah.
problem technically to tackle.
Lord,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd imagine so. And it's also not. It's you're right. It's not as big of a TAM, total addressable market, as cloud security, which this year companies are spending 30 billion plus on cloud security. How many companies are really spending on deepfake detection? I'd say less than a billion or about a billion right now. So probably less than a billion. So it's interesting, but
Right.
if you're the clear winner, then I think it's a good space to be in.
Yeah, it seems like something where you build technology and sell it to an identity verification vendor. Like you'd be a vendor's vendor, not necessarily selling to enterprises unless those enterprises have some kind of customer workflow, like Amazon with checkout stores, or I can't even think of any good cases where maybe an enterprise is large enough to need this, by itself. Um, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't even know how these products are sold. I need to read up more on these to understand what the product looks like, how it's priced, how it's sold. Uh, but yeah, let's move on to Socket. Socket says they're going to save the world from open source attacks. Quite a statement, but yeah, it's I mean definitely an area that's it's important to tackle. But I think that might be a little too ambitious a statement there.
Working in this space, I know a few things about it.
Okay.
I, I think save the world is probably a big goal, a nice goal. Um, but in contrast to what we were just talking about, the total addressable market here is enormous. It's been estimated that up to 90% of most software is open source, right? So, you build the foundation, it looks exactly the same, and then, you do the tweaks on top to make sure that your software is unique, it is functional, it, has the bells and whistles you want. And there is just so much open source code out there, and sometimes the desire is there to fix it and sometimes it's not. So save the world, lofty goal, address the problem, absolutely. But that's also just one part of the equation when it comes to software security is open source. There are so many other vectors that are included in that you can't just say the open source code is the only problem, because there are so many other environmental factors, authentication and access factors, things that go into it that could affect it as well.
Yeah, just trying to understand what they do. It looks like Yeah, there's a lot of area in the space. Like ChainGuard is a really interesting company, which is not what they're doing here. It looks more like a mix of SAST and SCA here, where they're looking to discover vulnerabilities in open source software that's embedded somewhere within your project. So this is something that would like plug into your GitHub, into your CI/CD pipeline, and you know, I guess the argument here is like, why would I use this over Dependabot, right? You know, because as I understand it, Dependabot, which is built into GitHub, does something very similar.
Well, sure, but that's for your GitHub environment. Hey, they actually had the same quote: the 90% of all code in modern software applications is now open source.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely use some of the native tools to do that. And then, of course, there's the entire ASPM space, software supply chain security space. So this is a pretty, and I speak from experience, a pretty crowded space with a lot of bigger players
yeah,
putting their, putting their pot into the, I don't know, I was going to make some sort of analogy that's falling apart as I think of it. A lot of bigger players entering the space while there are a lot of smaller companies and startups.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think
yeah. And I think the challenge is good enough, right? Go ahead, Darwin.
Yeah, I was going to say that a startup like Socket probably hyper focuses on one to two very specific problem areas like open source dependencies and things of that nature. They're probably not going to aim for the like broader ASPM market, but them providing those last mile coverages for open source dependencies and going very deep in that space is what has allowed them to get customers like Figma, Anthropic, Vercel, Brave, MetaMask, etc. And so it seems like they're loved by customers and they're probably solving a very hard problem extremely well. And yeah, the open source problem is extremely prevalent. And when we think about supply chain attacks at the code level, it could get scary very fast. And so a company like Socket is probably, I'd have to dig in more, but yeah, 40 mil Series B. Um, there has to be some sort of product market fit at this point, right? So I think
That's
it's yeah,
that's a healthy Series B.
yeah,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure. It's just
yeah,
a very, like you said, a hyper focused part of a
mm-hmm.
bigger thing.
100%. Yeah,
And so you'd have to
and
use it in conjunction with something else. You'd have to.
yeah, and maybe they get bought
Yeah,
by
as
a bigger machine, you know.
Yeah,
That is a
yeah, you know,
trend.
when you're coming in, like, you know, I think the one thing is when you're coming in and you're just kind of managing security, uh, as we all know, one of the headaches is just like too many tools, right? And when we have too many tools, um, now there's two sides of it, right? It's like, okay, let's get the right tool for the job, but then a lot of other companies try to sell you the single pane of glass kind of thing, right? So there's like that, the both sides. So I'm really curious on how they fix this problem. It is a big problem. In fact, I met a company, I'll talk about it later at TechCrunch, that the way they went about it is instead of going through like CVEs, they just detect the behavior of the binaries. And so is this binary behaving badly? So that was an interesting approach. And I wonder if that's like something in their roadmap. I tried to take a deep look in their features right now. I'm curious, does this replace other software or does it work with it? Right. So that's my curiosity here, but good for them.
yeah. Yeah, I think you got to start replacing in this market. And the next one we're going to talk about here with stream security, I also want to throw to you, Eamon. Um, you know, already getting pretty crowded, the, you know, cloud threat detection and response market, which is, I assume, what they're in. They say real time cloud threat and exposure detection and response solution,
That's a
which is a
mouthful.
mouthful. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you want to, if, yeah, you know, your thoughts on that one, and then we'll move on from the funding here.
Yeah. I'm taking a look at them right now. I gotta.
So I know
So
there's more than a few in the cloud threat detection and response space, which
Yeah.
is
You know,
yes,
seems very adjacent to what CNAP vendors are already doing.
100%.
Yeah, with cloud,
Yeah.
it's. Go ahead, Darwin. Go ahead. I'll catch up here.
Yeah, so Stream Security is, they've just raised a Series B in a very crowded space, which means they've been able to get some sort of traction in the cloud security market, even with the Palo Altos and the Wizzes of the world. So there's definitely some sort of differentiator and innovation within their solution, something that they call cloud twins, and I'd imagine it's some sort of emulation that they're able to provide. I haven't dug into the quote unquote cloud twins technology that they're using, but that's one of their core differentiators. But also, their go to market messaging is for SOC teams and reducing the alert fatigue that comes from cloud security solutions and cloud based alerts for SecOps teams. It's not a CNAP where it's more so like a cloud security team or infrastructure security team, which would be managing that tool. It's more so tailored for SOC folks, which is an interesting approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's.
agree. I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
for it.
taking a look at their solution paper right now. I mean, it's geared for, like, the SOC analyst, the SIM designed to gather raw logs. So I'm curious how they're going to try to tackle this. With the cloud market is just pretty crowded, with the combination, and then not only that, but you also have SIM provider, or sorry, log aggregators that have for past several years now tried to add cloud SIM, right? Like, say, Datadog, they have now a cloud SIM offering, and a lot of these kind of things. So I'm really curious on how. I'm really curious what their ICP is. Like, who are they targeting? Are they targeting large enterprises, or somebody that would not be a fit for, say, Wiz or
Mhm.
whatnot? But seems like there's a market still.
Yeah, it's they've got a lot going on here. Like just looking at their product lineup here on their website, they don't even mention the digital twinning, which I imagine to be like a cyber range. Like, you see some deception offerings and things like that, creating a mirror of the environment that you can then play with. You can adjust. You can see what happens by simulating attacks in it, but they're not simulating attacks. So I'm not sure, and they're not doing deception. So I'm not sure what the purpose of this cloud twinning is. But they do talk about attack path prioritization also. So we've seen this in a few places, and I've heard kind of mixed results on how well different implementations of prioritizing vulnerability fixes based on attack paths works, but and also talking about doing some CSPM type stuff, risk-based misconfigurations and vulnerability fix prioritization. So there's, again, we're back to: are you complementary, or are you going to replace something? Because you're probably jumping into a market that already has a big, expensive cloud security solution, right? The most of your That's probably 100% of your buyers already have something here.
Looks like they're trying to
100%.
coin a term called CDR. Is that cloud detection response? It's interesting.
Well,
Right?
so
That's how it
CDR,
comes across to me.
yeah, CDR, Wiz acquired Gem Security at the beginning of this year, which was a CDR vendor. And they were doing some pretty nifty stuff there. So Stream Security is directly competing with Wiz head on, and they're what they probably compete mostly on is pricing and win out deals, which makes sense. There's enough to go around where there are SMBs and probably companies that are not in the Fortune 500 that can't pony up the money to get it Wiz. I think there's enough market for Stream Security to continue to survive. The other thing now is CDR enough to thrive in this market? And so they're adding on some like CSPM. I don't think that the runway or the trajectory for a company like Stream in 2024, where there's 30 plus CSPMs and cloud security solutions, they've got their work cut out for them. Um, the other thing is Permiso security started out in cloud detection and response, and they've pivoted since to ITDR, which maybe they know something
Mhm.
that we don't. but the CDR space is a little murky. And Ali Mellon, who was on recently on one of the Security Weekly episodes, she's written up a post around, is CDR a feature or is it a product, and does it have a market? So it's one of those things. But kudos to the team for raising, and maybe they have some amazing stuff up their sleeves that they're currently working on productizing. But yeah, congrats to the Stream Security team.
Yeah, I mean, given the market you just described, I think they might need more funding.
Yeah.
I think this might be on the small end of what I give a company with the uphill battle that they're going to have here.
Wiz is the
All
big
right.
elephant in the room. So yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe there's a piece we're missing, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe they're aiming more down market. Maybe they found a gap in the market where companies are too small, or somewhere in between in the
Right.
middle. There's a lot of factors here. We're reading press releases and looking at websites here, so we're guessing to some extent. So we get two acquisitions here. Cyera picked up Trail Security, and this was kind of a weird one because I think Trail Security came out of stealth and announced its funding at the same time that it was announcing it's being acquired by Cyera. And Cyera itself was a startup just yesterday, it feels like. But Cyera itself picked up a $300 million Series C at a $1.4 billion valuation, and now their valuation is something like $3 billion. So Cyera is growing really quick here and already picking up other companies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
wow, indeed.
Indeed. And Trail Security is a Tel Aviv based startup that came out of stealth as soon as they announced their acquisition. They were funded by Cyberstarts and another Israeli VC. And if you remember back to a couple episodes ago, Adrian, where we were looking at the chart of where the most funding goes in the different stages for startups on a geographical basis, that Mike Prevet showed. And what that graph,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that visualization depicted is that virtually no funding is raised at the seed level by Israeli or Tel Aviv based startups. But what this indicates, reading between the line, is that when they raise their seed, they're still in stealth and they come out of stealth typically when they announce their Series A. And so Trail Security was following kind of the same pattern of not coming out of stealth until they've raised their Series A, which hints at getting more traction before they publicize things, which is a very smart thing to do as a startup because you absolve yourself from a lot of open questions from the market and things of that nature while you're still landing on your core value prop. Now, the other thing here is that Cyera is a startup itself, and they're in the DSPM space, and they just picked up a DLP solution in Trail Security. The data security space is scorching hot. There have probably been over the past 18 months at
Pretty
least
full.
six or it's full, number one, and Cyera is thriving. And then the other thing is that $3 billion valuation for data security is amazing, and also AI in the advent of and the explosion of use within the enterprise is probably leading to a lot of people picking up data security solutions. So this space is definitely one to watch. Katie, you had something? Sorry there.
No, I was just agreeing. I think, as as some of these AI or LLM or ML type solutions just become, I use it every day now. And the potential for companies to have some data leaked, sensitive data leaked in those scenarios. It's just, at least in my world, AI solutions are an accelerator, a productivity accelerator. That's what they do. And as more and more people become comfortable with it, get really good at writing prompts, get really good at understanding how
data
they
leak
can
accelerator, right?
yeah there is so much potential. We already had a data problem, a data sprawl problem, a data protection problem, a data tracking and audit problem. And now, the acceleration, the multiplication that we're getting in productivity gains is directly correlated with the amount of risk that goes into it. So it's, basically I was just agreeing that this is a space, we
Yeah.
haven't seen huge efficacy in the DLP space over the years because
Right.
it is a tricky problem to solve. So hopefully companies like this are making some good gains because it's only multiplying. It's only going to get
Yeah,
worse.
it's yeah, like you say, it's tough to solve, and also it really is kind of the core concern for adopting AI. As I talk to companies here, is they know their data's a hot mess. They have data hygiene and governance issues, and there's not a lot of straightforward ways to fix that. Like Microsoft says, oh, you use Purview's sensitive data labeling, I forget what the acronym is. MIR, something like that. Microsoft. I'd have to look it up. But but yeah, people are like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to go through, label all my data, just millions and millions of pieces of data? You've got to have something automated, and like you're saying, Katie, traditionally that automated stuff is not all that accurate. So we do have a new generation of stuff where they're even using LLMs and ML models and things like that. We're long past regex, but I'm not hearing from anybody that, yeah, we bought this thing and it solved it, right? And now we're just automatically labeling stuff with the correct labels, and AI tools are respecting those labels and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do here, I think. And I also found it interesting as to why they decided to go with an acquisition before even coming out of stealth. And it sounds like the fear of buyers favoring platform plays here.
Mm.
So this is giving credence to this thing we're already talking about. Like, you can't afford to be complimentary. People already own something in a lot of these spaces, so you kind of got to be part of something bigger to sell your product. Sounds like.
That's the sad reality that we live in the security space. And the one thing I'll mention is security teams are understaffed, and having a platform, though it may not give as much coverage, whether in granularity or like width or depth of coverage, platform does tend to cover about 80% of the problem or 90% of the problem. Whereas we're talking about those last mile type of solutions that may be complementary, but may solve the problem extremely well. And there are some certain domains in which you want to pay for those best of breed solutions, which is like endpoint EDR solutions, endpoint detection and response, or say an IAM. But when it comes to cloud security, do you really need a best of breed solution, or picking up Orca versus picking up Wiz still gets you most of the way there? Same thing with Palo Alto Networks. So um, I think we're at an interesting crossroad, and this trail security going publicly on paper and saying this is one of their main concerns for why they sold right now could be a market shifter. Good snag there,
Yeah.
Adrian.
Yeah, and then the next acquisition here, very different kind of acquisition. Secureworks has been out there for a long, long, long time. I don't know how old the company is at this point, but it's got to be at least 20 years old. I remember hearing a lot about Secureworks being in Knoxville, which is not far from Atlanta, where they were founded and headquartered. In the mid 2000s. And yeah, they were part of Dell at one point. They got spun out, and now Sophos picks them up for $859 million. Good deal for Joe Levy over there, who used to be the CTO and recently, in the last year or two, became the CEO. known Joe for a long time, and yeah, it seems like a good deal. In the last couple of years, Secureworks had kind of pivoted, not pivoted, but jumped into the product space. They built an XDR product that they initially just used in conjunction with their consulting services, and then decided to sell as a product called Taegis XDR, and also acquired a vulnerability management product, which they rebranded Taegis VDR. So they, in my opinion, they actually have one of the best vulnerability scanners in the industry, though not a lot of people know it. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting seeing what they do, given that Sophos already has an XDR product. So I imagine this was mostly for the MDR component, the services component that Secureworks has, and a lot of people have noted that this is considerably less than they were worth. This is not the first time they've been bought many years ago. So
I wonder if it's similar to like the Google Mandiant acquisition, obviously on a smaller scale, where Secureworks has a professional services arm, but also some software. So,
yeah,
um, it seems like it's good for penetration for Sophos, to get into more customers. Not sure what they're going to do with the professional services part, though. So it's that would be curious. If they're going to keep that or expand it or reduce it.
yeah. I mean, I would think it makes sense. We're seeing a lot of professional services MDR firms being valued more like software startups than traditional consulting companies. Closer to 6 to 10x instead of the typical 2x, 1.5x that you see with services organizations. So yeah, maybe they're. Yeah, I think it would be silly to get rid of that. There seems to be some value in that, but yeah, we'll see.
Yep. And this is, as Iman highlighted, this is a pattern that's becoming more prevalent, where an acquisition has a software component but also a services component. Another example is Palo Alto Networks and IBM QRadar, where they pick up QRadar. They already have XCM as a quote unquote next gen SIEM, and so they're not necessarily that interested in the tech itself, but more so in the services and the product knowledge, and also the customer base that they acquire from IBM's QRadar. So it's a pattern that's becoming more prevalent, and services does pay out a lot. I'd imagine the profit margins for services is insane. Um, so some patterns and trends to continue to monitor.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Eamon, you've got a couple of stories I want you to get a chance to talk about here. You mentioned you went to TechCrunch.
I did. Yeah. I went to TechCrunch for the first time. It was a different experience. I don't think I was trying to recall. I don't know if I've ever been to a non-security conference. So I'm going there and expecting something like an RSA, but just, more tech or non-security. And I go there and it's way smaller, first of all, than RSA. So that's the first thing. But I do get in there and I see like kind of like the Silicon Valley-esque. One person had a hologram that was watching a video. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I see where we are. It was good. It was interesting. I didn't spend much time between work and family obligations, so I just kind of like hopped in, browsed around. Multiple stages going on at the same time, and a lot of diversity there. So I was impressed by that, both from a gender diversity and just regional diversity. And there was the security component as well. It's funny. On my way out, I met someone that worked at a security company. I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm a CISO for startups. They're like, oh, let's connect. um, and even someone planted a security like some swag in the bathroom. Like use security, and it was a cologne bottle. Something like use security that doesn't stink. I'm like, okay. I feel like I'm an RSA already.
Nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was hilarious. So yeah, those are my top thoughts so far.
Yeah, I've seen some wild stuff. I've seen urinal cakes of all things.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Marketing
Yeah.
gets wild.
there was a giant sign saying, "Don't hire humans anymore. Use AI." Yeah,
Wow.
I'm like, okay, I see where we are. Yeah, it's everybody is drinking the AI Kool-Aid for sure.
That's an interesting
Deeply.
tactic at a place where you want humans to buy passes.
Yeah.
I know, right? I was kind of thinking the same thing. I'm like, you're advertising this to humans, but um, yeah, it's in my newsletter. Like, it's just a big picture of that. I'm like, I had to
Right.
take a picture
Oh,
of that.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
The pendulum
So,
does swing, so we'll see how everything unfolds. Adrian, just wanted to quickly say that the founder and CEO of Vanta gave a talk at TechCrunch Disrupt on her
yep.
journey in scaling Vanta to a unicorn. And I thought it's a great interview for founders. So I'll send you the link to that so you could throw it in the show notes. But they were like TechCrunch Disrupt
Yeah.
is amazing for founders.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Somebody said this. It might have been one of you guys. It might have been reading one of your newsletters that, or maybe it was Ross Hollylook saying that companies like Vanta aren't compliance companies; they're sales enablement companies. And I thought that
Ross.
was an interesting take on that.
Yeah,
Was that
Ross did
Ross?
say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that vein, we do have a couple things in here. So Chorology has been pitching me a bunch of stuff as I guess, are coming out of stealth, and maybe they've raised some money. Also, we've got a story number 4 here, and they're just what we were talking about before. How do you map out all your data? Where does your data live? They're talking about trying to do this autonomously, and making it all visible and mapping it. And I don't know if they actually automatically create a diagram like their website suggests, but all the things I've been saying sound really compelling and interesting, but with a big, huge if true disclaimer, right? Like, if it actually works, this sounds amazing. But yeah, somebody's got to you got to try, and I hope they make it there. But it sounds very DSPM similar. They talk about data discovery, data classification and mapping, and then usually there's an enforcement step there, but automated risk assessment and remediation. So yeah, that's DSPM, but they're not using the DSPM term that I see. Maybe it's already too old.
Next
Yeah.
gen DSPM.
So in the interest of time, I'm just going to hit some highlights here. We've got a new product here. Story number 5, Eva, the employee verification app. Another one of these, like, huge if this works. Just trying to solve this little piece of the problem here. Earlier, we were talking about physical security and face authentication, and employee verification, as we saw with a security vendor who accidentally hired a North Korean, can be a hard problem. So really interesting here, and this is kind of walking through the problem statement, how it presents, and what they're looking to solve here with Ava is what they call the product here. And apparently you can try it for free. I have not tested this out yet, though.
I mean,
Yeah, so that looks.
yeah, there are a lot of companies who are now trying to force people back into offices, but especially with our distributed workforce, this is incredibly important. I know when I've worked exclusively at home for a long time now, as I think probably most of you have, and onboarding is always like, hey, send me a picture of your driver's license. Well, no. Send me a picture of your passport. Well, no. Like, no, I'm not emailing you a picture of my driver's license, even if the email claims to be, so, nobody on the internet knows if you're a dog, right? Like, my dog can't type, so we would actually know if that were the case. But really verifying people is harder when, I've worked at my current company since end of May, beginning of June, and I've met 2 people in person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have
verifying, I
similar
mean, yes,
experience.
there are certain things you can do to be like, all right, I know this person who knows that person, whatever. I see them on Zoom. But, when it comes to legal stuff, there's always going to be some crazy stuff going on. And I've been reading lately that some of the younger generation are taking multiple jobs and working like minimal hours. And so they have like 2, 3 jobs at a time and pulling paychecks, but they're labeled as, I would do air quotes, but I have mittens on, full-time employees, but they're not actually full-time employees. And so it depends, what company they're working for. You could be completely violating their policies. And you'd never know if it's a remote employee and they're seemingly getting their work done, right? So it's
Yeah.
a complicated issue. And I think mostly we're like, yeah, give me your details and I'll do a security check. But it's way more than that now.
Yeah. So let me do a bit of a speed run through the some of the rest of the things we have here. There's a story on so another story broke about Cyberstarts. This one from Forbes this time, and that resulted in Calistech or CTech responding to that with another piece. I started to wonder if we would see another piece on that, and we did. Not a ton of new information, except the we now know that they've paused that Sunrise program, and they're trying to do some damage control there. As the industry mostly behind the scenes reacts to this, and tries to everybody's trying to do some damage control there. And they're trying to downplay it. And speaking of downplaying, BlackBerry looks like they're trying to cut their losses with Cylance. I'm not sure it ever made sense for Cylance to go to BlackBerry, even though they did pivot to being a secure, or not just a security company, but a software company from a phone manufacturer. But so that happened. I think one of the more interesting ones is number 9. So Anthropic's new AI model can do some robotic process automation type stuff. I recently talked to a friend of mine, Sinan Aaron, founded a company called OpNova that's doing something similar there, where like pixel level, like click this, do this, where there's not an API for an application, and you have to do some automation of keyboard and mouse, and to be able to automate a thing. So I think that's a really interesting area where it's at the same time this technology is super old. This is I first time I saw screen scraping was the early 2000s. To get data out of a mainframe, but to see uh, this be a new area for AI and OpNova, I'm not sure they're using AI at all, but it's uh, yeah, for computer vision looks like they are, but yeah, very very interesting space. Yeah, everything old is new again type of situation there. I'll pause there.
I think this
Yeah,
one's similar to Microsoft Recall, which there was this whole like data privacy and security uproar around Recall because of the way that Microsoft was doing that. This is one of those scenarios where productivity and the efficiency gains from this type of feature and product will out trump any security concerns or data privacy concerns, because the general consumer is going to say, heck yeah, I want agentic AI that can do stuff on my behalf. And so I think Anthropic has a very strong security team, and I haven't dug into the security of it, but this is a massive win, and a huge step forward towards like agentic and AI and AGI overall. So I'll have to play around with it. Ayman, I think you.
Anthropic has a hell of a
Mhm.
they have a hell of an underdog story going on, because they like all their executives and founders and stuff like left for OpenAI, and then at some point it started to reverse, and they're now getting a lot of good people, and they're releasing stuff like crazy. Like they got new models out, new features coming out. It's really impressive how they turned things around, because it was looking pretty bleak for them like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago.
Hmm. And they have a strong security team with leaders from Meta, Asana, and a few other big tech places. So kudos to Anthropic. I mean, I think you had something on this one.
Not an Anthropic.
Okay.
Just on the Cyberstarts. As a
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
go for
So
it.
yeah, as a practitioner, it's we're coming into a company and we're asked to like help secure the company, right? And it's
We being CISOs,
people.
right?
Oh, sorry, CISOs. Yeah, as CISOs coming in. So sometimes CISOs are advisors or whatever. I think just having transparency, being open about all the relations that we have. I mean, just like, I mean, even when you go out and you buy a book, or you go to an Amazon affiliate that's selling, if you watch a video on like some sort of repair tool and say, oh, go ahead and click on my Amazon link. By the way, I'm an affiliate. Like, everybody's very open about these things. So,
You have to
at the
be.
end, yeah. So at the end of the day, it was just interesting. A lot of us heard about this happening for years. But we didn't say anything, and
Or we
so it's
didn't know how
interesting.
true it was, right? Like it was rumor,
It was well, a lot of
or maybe not. Maybe just, maybe
it
that's
was
just me.
rumored, but like I think people knew like what was going on, just not like in a lot of detail. But anyway, I guess what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say is like ethics is important, and we're
yeah,
coming in, we're trying to secure a company. Um, we have to, sometimes we're given a lot of privilege, a lot of influence at a company, and we just need to treat that properly, right?
yeah. And I've been firsthand hearing from some of the companies mentioned in these stories who had CISOs participating in this, and it's stories like, "Yeah, I was wondering why we had all these products that we never deployed anywhere." So
Yeah,
in some portion of the companies out there, it was the worst case of this that you would imagine, where stuff was being bought just to artificially prop up the startup with no intention of actually using the products.
it's funny you say that because that's actually an inherent problem in the security space anyway.
Yeah,
Shelfware.
even if it's
So
not intentional. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's just natural part of our job. We buy something. There's two parts, right? There's those that think that they have to buy something to fix the problem,
yeah,
or there's those that say let's build it, or let's just live off the land and let's use the existing tools that we have, change a process, which is my preferred way, right? And only buy the tool if like we're like absolutely stuck, or if you have to pay the SSO tax, which is annoying. Um, but in any case, like that's already a problem when we come in to a place. We get a tool and then maybe the engineer leaves, or we don't deploy it, or we get blocked by engineering or whoever to deploy the tool that we want to fix the problem. So anyway, don't get me started on this.
yeah. Yeah, we can maybe dive deeper another time. So I want to go ahead and get wrapped up here. Our squirrel story was reverse engineering Redbox. So you still have a good chance of being able to go out and buy a physical Redbox thing, because companies, Redbox is in bankruptcy. They're not taking care of these things. Every CVS and Walgreens and grocery store out there had one of these things sitting out there, and they've got computers in there, and they're giant carousels for DVDs and video games and Blu-rays and stuff like that. So people are going in, talking to the shop owners, saying, "Hey, can I pick this up for free or pay you a small fee for it?" I mean,
Really?
it's going to be at the point where people are probably going to get, because otherwise they would have to pay for people to take them away and probably take them to a dump or something like that. But people are reverse engineering them, building web apps to control them and stuff like that, with the intent of using them as their home media solution for
That's
people
so
who still
cool.
have physical media. So I love it. I love that people are doing that. That was the squirrel story, which we typically end on. But instead, I want to end on the beef between Splunk and Palo Alto networks. I don't know if you guys saw uh, Palo Alto's CEO post on LinkedIn about this, but I kind of live for the drama. Uh, I just enjoy being on the sideline for this. I don't think it's a really healthy thing, but it is kind of funny to see the CEO of one big public company call out the CEO of another formerly public company that just got acquired.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple things here. Nikesh Arora, the CEO of Palo Alto Networks, has been C-suite level at publicly traded companies for the past 20 years. He was the CMO at T-Mobile back in 2004 and onward. So when it comes to like these public battles and kind of roasting your competitor, he is a legend at this and understands the
Yeah.
chess game extremely well. The other thing is that Splunk is probably bleeding money and losing tons of, 6-figure, 7-figure,
Just because
sometimes
they
even
get acquired. Yeah.
sometimes 8-figure deals over the past year because they were acquired. So they're losing a ton of contracts, and some of those are going to Palo Alto Networks. So they have to be careful because this plays into the hands of Palo Alto Networks. I love the beef. I think it's funny, but also Splunk is not necessarily in a
A
position to
cell
be
phone?
fighting this
Would you
battle.
describe it as a cell phone?
Would I describe this battle as like a network, like a cell phone network battle, like Verizon versus T-Mobile?
No, like a cell phone, like you
Mm-hmm.
hit yourself in the face. Did Splunk kind of punch themselves in the face here?
I think so. And given by the reactions on this post, over 6,000 reactions on this post, yeah, Splunk definitely burned themselves
Yeah.
I mean, I think from
again.
a marketing and a message point of view, there's sort of the golden rule that you don't try to win business by putting down your competitors, especially publicly. If you can't win on your own strengths,
And
then
yet,
what are you doing anyway, right? This is super, super interesting to me. However, I would never do it. Maybe I'm not bold. My CEO told me on a blog post that's coming out next week to be bolder. So maybe I'm just a wimp. I certainly have opinions. You all know that. But I would personally never come out and be quite this bold. However, and again, I'm holding up one finger, even though I'm wearing a mitten. Our world has become so polarized in almost everything. Things that shouldn't be political have become political. And there's almost this tacit agreement in some areas of the world and in some sectors that the bigger the noise, the louder the noise, the better it is for everybody. I'm not going to get into politics because no, not going there. But I'm going to take something that other people might know about, which is Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Does anybody else know what's going on there? No? Okay. So quick recap.
I've seen stuff about it. Yeah.
Okay. Mike Tyson, everybody knows, heavyweight world champion, blah, blah, blah. He's also in his 50s or 60s or something. And Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned quasi boxer, right? This is never going to happen. This is never, ever, ever going to happen. Mike Tyson will kill Jake Paul. And I don't mean that as a turn of phrase. I mean, quite literally, Mike Tyson hitting Jake Paul could kill him. Boxers die occasionally from getting hit really, really hard. But what they're doing in the media is freaking brilliant. They're bringing attention to a sport that's basically dying and was basically seen as lowbrow entertainment for a really long time. But by creating this kind of cage match, you've got all of these people now tuning in and paying $80 to watch fights on pay-per-view. And the market, the total addressable market, is growing because of this completely fabricated beef. So to me, as someone in marketing, watching what's going on with Palo and Splunk, I'm like, are they out of their minds, or are they just so much smarter than the rest of us? Because everybody turns their head to look at the car that's stranded on the side of the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
just like
Can you
incidents.
imagine $80 for 90 seconds? Like, what if it lasts 90 seconds?
Oh, there was a UFC
Sorry,
fight last
Eamon.
weekend that lasted 90 seconds approximately, and the guy had to tap out because the other
Yeah,
guy.
but there's usually like 5 or 6 fights in the
Yeah.
card, right?
The other thing is, this
but the
fight will
main
be
fight,
hosted
he
on.
broke his jaw in the first round.
Yeah, this fight will be hosted on Netflix. So just a side note there. I have no idea what that
Oh,
pricing
really?
structure looks
Really?
like for a live event on Netflix. But it's probably bumping the Netflix stock up a little bit, right? Yeah. And
The only
go
thing
for it,
missing
Ayman.
is a crypto tie.
Yeah, and I'd imagine with
Nah,
Jake Paul involved, there is some sort of crypto tie-in.
I'm curious on what the real impact of this post really is. It's just, I mean, what's the real long-term impact of this post versus just, attention economy kind of stuff, So,
So I know a lot of CISOs that will maintain a blacklist of companies whose, like, they got a lot of options they can buy from, and companies where if they perceive their behavior as unethical or they don't like their sales tactics, super easy for them. They're like, easy decision for me. I got 20 other choices. You're going on the list. And they do have a list where they will, you pull some kind of stunt and they don't like it. Like they're already, don't push them.
Yep.
right,
They're
that's fair.
already having a rough time as a CISO. Like, don't push.
True.
The other thing within this post
All right.
on point number 2, the last thing I'll call out here is that Nikesh says verbatim, we are not unproven, at least not to the 60 customers who are delighted and happy to be deploying XIM. And in some cases where we had the privilege of replacing Splunk with a sold book of 125 customers, there's a few more to replace in that list, and we look forward to it. So Nikesh is stating that, hey, we're displacing Splunk. Are you sure you want to poke the bear? We've got a massive book and people to go for, companies where to displace you. So I think there is true impact to Splunk's bottom line because of this post eventually.
But do
One
you
of these
think
companies
the
just
impact was
sold.
because of the post, or do you think it's because of the aforementioned issues with Splunk?
The latter,
Both.
Or both?
mostly. I think the latter mostly, but also this 100% drove traffic to Palo Alto's SIEM solution. So a bit of both. Yeah.
Oh yeah, to Ayman's point, what is the long-term effect? I think there are a lot of other factors that are going on here, but at least in the short term, there are a lot of people looking at the crash on the side of the road. A lot of people, I would bet their web traffic has gone through the roof.
Yeah. All right. I want to go ahead and wrap here. I think we learned I detected a few vulnerabilities with Halloween costumes during the course of this. One of them, if you have a reflective surface on your face, be careful what's on your monitors. Also, Kitty needs a full 5 fingers to speak and emote fully.
I'm not even
those are
Italian.
the 2 things I learned from costumes on this.
I'm not even Italian, and I speak with my hands. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Katie, Eamon, Darwin, for joining me today. This has been a really fun one. I love having a full cast in costume to talk about the news with. So thank you all so much. And stick around. We've got 2 pre-recorded interviews from Octane coming up next.